I want to go down here and make sure I'm muted.
Speaker.
It was pretty fun.
Yeah.
It must be.
Our second.
Hello?
went to Spain.
Do you have yours on mute? I
Mine's
didn't.
on mute.
I didn't have mine on mute, but I'm not joined yet.
So maybe.
Which was.
Is there anyone in that room?
It must be. Hello?
Midway.
Do you have yours on mute?
That's us.
I didn't have mine on mute, but I'm not joined.
Oh, is it delayed?
It's a delayed thing, and I think I have to close something out on. Is there anyone in that room? Do you have yours on mute? That's us. I didn't have.
That, yeah. That's the one thing. Look at, here it is. Okay. So I've been twice. You're in twice? Well, I think so. Right?
Yeah. there's
See,
too
I'm
many
two.
candidates.
There's two.
That's normal.
Okay,
You want to keep both those open, just say got it.
got it.
Really?
Really?
Isn't she supposed to appear twice?
Because we need to rename this.
Oh.
Okay. So here is where I mute. Start video.
Not there.
Okay.
Okay. All righty, we'll try it again. I'd like to call this order the Bend Landmarks Commission meeting to order for June 21, 2022. Okay. Okay, roll call. Jim Figursky is here. Tom Schmidt is here. Is there anybody else online who checked in? Do we have a quorum?
Okay, we got feedback. That one? Zoom, yeah. So I assign it to you? Yeah. It's off. Who else is?
Oh, yeah, absolutely. It's our first hybrid. I know it's gonna.
All right. Test. Okay, let's give it a try.
Okay. Okay,
Well, I can't see them. I'm not-
okay. How, is that picking up on your mic or something?
None of your computers are to me. None of yours.
No, well, I'm not.
Is there an auto playback feature that's going on?
Are you, you're not plugged into the meeting though, Jerry, right?
Is that absolutely?
You're not plugged into the meeting. though.
I've just got my Safari open and
The-
staff report.
Yes.
That's all I'm doing.
Oh, okay, so test.
Okay.
Green on custom light insert. Is there a way to mute that one? Because I think that is the delayed.
Right.
delayed,
Mhm.
There. That might be it.
Second or so delay.
Yeah. Mhm.
I think that's it. Okay, I think that's. I've never had to do that before, so let's see if there is still an echo.
I don't hear anything so
I think
far.
that's it.
So you think, did you get it?
I think so, yeah. Go for it, okay.
What do you think? Should I get back in?
All right. Okay, so we are called to order and we've done a roll call. Let me catch up with myself here for a second. No problem. Oh, yeah. If a 5-minute delay to get all the electronic to work is all we've got, we're doing really well. Think back to Jim and I were just talking back to the last 2.5 years when we started all of this. I mean, oh my goodness, the problems that we had.
Yeah.
Anyway, now that we're here, next on the agenda then is general comments and questions from public, topics that are not on the agenda, anything that a member of the public would like to speak to the commission about, as long as it's not on the agenda. Is there anyone out there?
It should just be the applicant.
Gotta mute yourself.
No?
Well, I'm gonna double check.
Okay.
No, there is not.
Okay, nobody out there to comment. All right. And then next on the agenda is approval of the minutes. As I look at the minutes okay, I got a wrong date tonight. So this is July. I've been saying June. As I look at the minutes from June 21, I was not in attendance. I was excused. And so we have 2 of the 4 members who were in attendance. Is that enough of a quorum to approve minutes? Did I delay?
Delay, it's fine, or, it is, the city attorney has said that even though you weren't at the meeting, you could approve or be part of the voting.
To approve the minutes? Oh, okay. If I can do that, then have we looked over the minutes, then I will entertain a motion to accept the minutes as presented.
I move to accept the minutes as presented.
Second?
Second motion.
Okay, it has been moved and seconded to accept the minutes as presented. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Minutes are accepted, minutes are approved. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right, that brings us to, let's see. Okay, that brings us to our project for this evening and the project that we need to consider. We are looking at project public hearing number PLHIS 20220-143.
No.
04.
Oh, you know what? I got the wrong agenda. I have an old agenda.
Oh.
How did I get that?
You need an extra, Jerry?
We are looking at PLHIS 20210-641.
It's
Thank you very much. Now I'm on the straight and narrow. See, we come back to in person and I'm just all over the place. PLHIS 20220-454.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, that's the right one. All right, super, thank you. I need to read this. This is a de novo hearing and it's an initial evidentiary hearing of PLHIS 20220-454. The application is a request for a type 3 major historic alteration application to remove a non-historic pediment on the front facade, replace 2 sets of double doors with storefront windows, add new bulkhead below the proposed windows, and install new board and batten siding on the recessed entrance at 917 Northwest Wall Street in the Central Business District. This is not in the historic district, but it is a historic building. The applicant has the burden of proving that he or she is entitled to the approval sought. The applicable criteria for this application include the Bend Urban Area Comprehensive Plan, Chapter 3, and Chapter 10.2 Historic Preservation Code, and the Secretary of the Interior standards for the treatment of historic properties. Testimony and evidence at this hearing must be directed toward the criteria set forth in the staff report or other criteria in the Bend General Plan or Bend Development Code that you believe is applicable for any other criteria in the National Register of Historic Places program that any person believes apply to this decision. Failure on the part of any person to raise an issue with sufficient specificity to afford the landmarks commissioners and parties to this proceeding an opportunity to respond to the issue precludes appeal to the City Council or Land Use Board of Appeals on that issue. Additionally, failure of the applicant to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the Landmarks Commission to respond to the issue precludes an action for damages in circuit court. The hearing will be conducted in the following order. The staff will give a report. The applicant will then have an opportunity to offer testimony and evidence. Proponents of the application will then be given a chance to testify and present evidence. When all proponents have testified, opponents to the appeal will then be given a chance to testify and present evidence. After both proponents and opponents have testified, the applicants will be allowed to present rebuttal testimony, but may not present new evidence. At the Landmarks Commission discretion, if the proponents presented new evidence on rebuttal, opponents may be recognized for a rebuttal presentation. At the conclusion of this hearing, the staff will be afforded an opportunity to make any closing comments. The commission may limit the time period for presentation. Continuances before the close of any hearing, any person has the right to request an opportunity to present additional evidence, argument, or testimony regarding the application. If the hearing is continued or the record left open, the applicant shall also be allowed at least 7 days after the record is closed to all other parties to submit final written arguments, but no new evidence in support of the application. And do any of the commissioners have any ex parte contacts, prior hearing observations, biases, or conflicts of interest to declare? If so, please state the nature and extent of those.
None here.
I drove by the front of the building just now on the way over here. Does any party wish to challenge any commissioner based on ex parte contacts, biases, or conflicts of interest?
Mr. Crabtree is the only one in the audience.
And Mr. Crabtree is the only one on.
And I've unmuted him if he wants to make it, or not.
I'm sorry, what was the question? Can you hear me?
Mr. Crabtree, if you have any objection to any of the commissioners hearing your proposal.
I do not. Please proceed. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. Thank you for being here with us tonight. Okay, then that brings us to staff report. Go ahead, Michelle.
Can I just share my screen really quick? All right. Hopefully everyone can see that. Meaning I hope Greg can see that. Thank you, Jerry. So I'm Michelle Patrick, for the record, an associate planner with the Planning Division. Again, this is a hearing for PL HIS 2022-0454, which is a major alteration to 917 Northwest Wall Street. So I'm going to just walk you through the applicant's proposal, the staff review of the primary changes, and the significant recommended conditions of approval. The property is located in the downtown, the central business district, surrounded by a variety of commercial businesses. Based on the map you see here, it abuts Brooks Alley to the northwest, and the primary facade faces Northwest Wall Street. Property is about a quarter acre in size, or just under 10,000, over 10,000 square feet, and developed with, originally was 2 multi-tenant mixed-use buildings, each 2 stories, approximately 15,000 square feet of floor area. And it was originally 2 buildings. These are effectively 1 building now, just based on how many connections there are in the interior. This is a street view of the building from 2018. The buildings on the property have an existing 0 setback, so they're attached. And in the street view photo, you can see the facade subject to this application, and which is where that red arrow is pointing, and the other O'Donnell building is just to the north of that. And this is what the primary facade looks like today. So I did want to just touch on the nomination form. So the O'Donnell Building was designated as a historic resource in 1992 by the Bend City Council. And the historic findings only highlight the architectural features of the Northern O'Donnell Building that was built in 1912. The entire property contains both buildings, Lot 9 and a portion of Lot 10, and therefore both are found to be subject to the Historic Preservation Code. And just to give a little brief overview, this is the earliest photo we have of the brick building subject to this application that was built in 1917. Based on the staff report, there's a number of photos we kind of document the changes over time. But I did want to highlight some of the important elements that are still intact today that we can see in this photo. And so we've got 5 window openings on the second story. Exposed brick siding, the parapet wall and brickwork detail near the roof line. Got a brick belly band separating the 2 stories, transom window band, and you can kind of see it in there, a recessed storefront entrance. So the proposal includes a few different elements. And again, this is the submittal is provided by the applicant, but they are hoping to remove this triangle pediment from the front facade, replace these 2 sets of double doors with fixed storefront windows. There's also going to be a 2-foot tall pony well or bulkhead installed underneath the windows. And we're also going to see, or what's been proposed is new board and batten siding on the recessed entrance. And so all the changes are limited to this particular O'Donnell building, the 1917 one. No changes are proposed to the 1912 O'Donnell building. And in addition, no changes are proposed to the existing masonry work. So nothing in the second story and nothing brick on the first story. So ultimately, staff is in support of the proposal with some recommended conditions of approval. So I just want to go through the major ones. This is a rendering of what the proposal will look like once completed. So one of the biggest design criteria was in regards to proportion and scale. And so the proposal includes replacing the inoperable doors with these storefront windows. The existing openings will be maintained, and the overall glazing will be decreased slightly, 81 square feet to 68 square feet. Overall, staff finds that the proposed fixed windows are a more appropriate storefront treatment, more traditional in nature of the original building design, which we've seen in some of the historic photos that were provided. And the new 2-foot high bulkhead or pony wall proposed underneath the windows is very comparable to other bulkheads and pony walls that are in existence on existing historic buildings in the downtown area. And there were some examples in the staff report to that effect as well. When we look at these in relation to the adjacent O'Donnell building, the 1912 O'Donnell building really does have some more modern storefront systems going on with these like clear awnings and glass windows that go all the way to the ground. So quite honestly, not entirely compatible with some of the other historic buildings. So we've found that the 1917 O'Donnell building and the proposed changes is actually more what we're looking for when we think of the character of the historic area and buildings that are historic in the downtown area. The other element is largely this triangle pediment on the front facade that's partially covering the transom window band. And the applicant has proposed to fully remove this, as you can see in that lower image. Based on available photos and permit records that we have, this was installed sometime in the late 90s, so not a historic element per se, but just installed with a tenant improvement. And staff does support the element or this removal, this element. The transom window band really does frame the storefront nicely and is a pretty traditional feature of a number of storefront windows and buildings we see in the downtown. Also, removing bulk is something that's supported by the National Trust for Historic Preservation. So we ultimately recommend that this criterion in particular is found to be met. The other area where there were a number of number of features that were applicable under this criterion, which is F, the exterior features, and notably sub item B here. The overall, most historic elements are going to be preserved with this application, and the applicant isn't proposing to remove anything that's really been deemed historic. So that's important to note. And the proposal will, I think, largely alter the front facade by removing these inoperable doors and replacing them with storefront windows. And in regards to this particular criteria, the applicant did submit some framing details, which shows the two sets of windows will each have two panes separated by vertical steel mullions, and they'll have a black steel finish that is shown in that bottom rendering. And we did recommend that they provide material cut sheets for those windows. They did have some detail, but we think adding a little bit more would be beneficial to understanding the scope of the proposal. The 2-foot high pony wall underneath indicates it'll be finished to match the existing plaster coating on the facade and painted white to match the remaining trim and elements of the non-masonry storefront. Did notice upon a site visit that one set of the existing double doors contains this partial wooden threshold and with some rubber extending from the interior, and the other set just sits on a concrete slab. So it wasn't entirely clear based on the submitted materials how this was going to be addressed. And so we did recommend that the applicant provide additional documentation showing how the planned pony wall will be installed symmetrically and on either side of the recessed entrance. So as mentioned before, the triangle pediment, obviously a large item in this proposal. And like we said before, we support the removal of it. And the applicant has indicated that the trim will be matching the remainder of what's shown on here. And so it will, and it's all going to be painted white, but the existing trim will be reinstalled onto that storefront. We did know during a site visit, it's not entirely clear how this is affixed to the window. So couldn't really get a great photo of it, but it's, we would like to see more detail on how this feature is going to be removed so that we can ensure that it doesn't do damage to the window. But if, if the transom window is damaged when this feature is removed, we would recommend that it be repaired. And if it's needs to be replaced, that window be replaced like for like. So that was again added as a recommended condition of approval. And those are the two major ones, and some of the other minor changes here are the board and batten siding. You can see that on this rendering of the recessed entrance, and that will just match the existing and painted. There'll be a new recessed light within the recessed entry. And there is some signage proposed as well, which was incorporated into the review. So 4 signs are proposed with the application, 3 being affixed to the windows. That top one will have a raised black lettering. And then they're also proposing a hanging sign that will be affixed to the storefront that is not masonry based. So there was some question on how what materials they're going to use to affix the hanging sign. So we did recommend that they provide additional info on the sign brackets and the hardware just to make sure it's compatible with the historic storefront. And that is essentially it. Overall, there were 12 conditions of approval, and some of these are fairly standard. Some of the other ones that I didn't mention were there's a tree located right in front of the subject property. So if that does need to be pruned in any way, we would recommend that it not be removed unless absolutely necessary. There's a pretty significant process for that in the central business district. And there's also a lighting fixture that's been installed above the pediment that looks like it's maybe been there for a couple of years. It is not historic, and we would recommend that that be replaced to be more appropriate for the building. Couple other things of note, we did get one public comment submitted yesterday, and this was forwarded to the applicant and essentially was asking for more detailing on how the applicant will meet historic detailing for the windows. And if they could provide more information on how the proposal and the pony walls will better align with the historic time period for the facade. So the applicant plans on responding to that, and so they've indicated they will address those items in their presentation. And lastly, the applicant did upload some additional documentation today to the file, which we marked as unviewable essentially. In chatting with them, it sounds like this was basically intended to meet some of these recommended conditions of approval, yet these have not been finalized. So that it hopefully can be done administratively, but if they want to address those in their presentation as well, we will let them.
Okay, thank you, Michelle.
Any questions?
Any questions for Michelle?
No, thank you.
Question for? No. Okay, thank you very much. And Mr. Crabtree is here, ready? Okay.
I've got I can go into a panel so we can talk. We're going to display the directions about how to participate.
Mm-hmm.
And then I will move Mr. Crabtree to panel so he can present.
Okay. Sounds good. Okay, and these 12 are the recommendations.
Okay, Mr. Crabtree, you can unmute and are now panelists able to participate.
Thank you. Can you guys see me as well or just hear me?
Yes.
Or neither?
That's good. I think we can, you have a presentation. We can hear you. Sorry.
You can hear me. Great. I think that's all we need. Thank you for the introduction and the report. You know, it sounds pretty great and pretty straightforward. I'm representing Abraham Gilreath, who's the tenant at Jack and Millie's, just a storefront down, who's moving into an expanded space here. And Dan Curry is the new owner. He has recently purchased the O'Donnell building. And his goal is to kind of revamp some of these old spaces and get them up to code and kind of back on track. So we're excited about that. You know, I think Michelle did a great job with the report. That there's not too many items that I wanted to touch on. You know, our main goal was to freshen up the exterior, tone down some of the colors, and what we felt that gable roof was quite out of place for the time, and just sort of simplify things and add to the historic building and downtown vibe. So we did submit some additional documents, like Michelle said, after our original. I don't know that we need to bring them up tonight unless someone has some specific questions about any of those items, but they were essentially responding to staff's conditions of approval, adding detail to the windows and the bulkhead below, and some small items like that she had asked for. But all in all, I think she did a good job with the presentation, and we don't have too much to add. And I would just open it up to your questions, and I'm happy to respond to anything you have.
Okay. Commissioners, any questions for our applicant?
Yeah, I'm curious about the where the new storefront windows are added. It looks like they're inset from the edge of the opening on the sides and the top. If we compare it to what the door openings are.
Let me pull up that image here on my end so I can look at it again here, because I have that.
I can share too, if that's easier.
No,
Can
not
you
that.
share, do you have sheet A 5.0?
Let's see, not this one.
Yeah, that's the one I'm
Okay.
looking at. If you could zoom in on the bottom image.
Does she have this one? Or is this new? That's a new. That might be new. Okay.
Could you zoom in a little bit more on the left side of that?
This one?
Yeah.
It's so this, I apologize. This rendering was made in Photoshop to try to get the kind of design idea across.
Yeah.
We do have an updated elevation that's more technical in CAD that we've been working on, and those new windows will be the same width as the existing doors. So they will fill that same space.
Okay, so there won't be that like roughly 6-inch stucco border around the new storefront?
Yeah, we want to do, if we can get more of a wood window to match, otherwise we would do a custom storefront that would infill the exact same width and height. That would be my preference, because if you get, I suppose you could get a custom wood window as well, but sort of open for interpretation. But the intent is we fill that same cavity or void.
Okay, I think that would help a lot to articulate the bulkhead below the windows. Because in this image, it sort of appears as more of a punched opening in a wall rather than having a clear base on it.
I don't know if there's something if I could share this drawing for the record or not, or how that needs to transpire.
We can consider it an exhibit, and you can provide that to Michelle. We can make sure that it's documented in Exhibit A for the public hearing.
How do I?
If you want to share your screen,
You can share your screen.
Okay, I'd love to.
if you want to email me the document you've shared, we'll add that as an exhibit that was provided at the hearing.
Okay. Let's see. Share. Okay. Oh, I can't. I have to wait for you to be.
You able to share your screen?
Oh, please.
No, I think it's.
There it is.
Are you able to see that?
Yes.
Is everyone able to see that okay, or?
Yeah.
Yes.
Would
So
you go to
this is-
zoom in on the bottom image?
You can see here where we've more tried to align the upper level clear story windows and that existing opening, which on the previous rendering felt like it was coming in quite a bit. I agree.
Yeah, this looks a lot better. That addresses the concern that I had.
Yeah, and it's more in line with same setback distance here in the red and yellow facade version.
Thank you.
Mr. Gray, in any of the recently submitted information, or perhaps Michelle, I mean, I just wonder about the black color for the new window trims. I mean, you know, looking back at some of the historic photos, the bottom storefront windows were painted the same as the upper windows. The black just seems a little stark. Is there a specific reason for going black as opposed to a white to match the other windows? And
I think black windows or anodized bronze windows are just a really standard storefront system. It's probably the most common color of window that you would see. So we felt that that would blend in with the rest of the surrounding buildings the best. There is white above, and I suppose the tenant could be convinced of that color as well. It's just a little out of the ordinary to get white storefront, but I don't have a great answer for you.
Well,
If you hate-
certainly, if you were to go to a custom wood window, white would not be out of the question.
No, it wouldn't be.
As far as
I'm sorry.
just a comment as staff, we don't typically regulate color as much. But there is likely an appropriate treatment for a traditional storefront window. And this one again has kind of, been modified a number of times since it was constructed. There's not a great image of what it originally looked like. So it's more or less using the best information we have.
I'm guessing that originally, way back in the day, the frames of those windows would not have been metal anodized. They would have been a wood frame window. Have you considered switching that window out for a wood frame window?
We have considered that. Historically speaking, I believe you're probably correct. For the longevity of the window, maintenance, and those reasons, we prefer to use a metal. It's just kind of, I think, a sign of the times today. Wood windows aren't going to hold up, and then we're going to come back and have to submit another wood window replacement in 10 years. So for me personally, my opinion is I'd rather have something that lasted longer, and we weren't having to switch out or have maintenance issues or other problems down the road. And to note, none of this facade that we're touching was part of it's all new from 1989 and newer. So we didn't feel that trying to go back to wood windows from 1917 when the facade was quite different than it is today was a benefit to anybody.
And the doors, the entry doors in the recessed entry, those are black in color. Are those also a metal door?
Those are wood doors.
Those are wood doors back there.
We're just proposing to paint them from yellow, the current yellow color.
Okay, but they are a wooden door. Okay. And the transom windows, after you pull off the overhang, is there any prediction as to what those transom windows will look like if they've been damaged, and you have the guarantees in here that if they have been damaged, then they need to be replaced in kind.
That's right. We believe those to be metal windows as well. And it's a little hard to tell until we really get into removing that facade, but or that we'll call it that gable end piece. It's like you said in your presentation, we're not sure how that's attached. It might just be that it's caulking straight to the glass. So any damage has occurred, we'd have to replace that to meet the design intent.
Okay. Any other questions for the applicant?
One of the public comments was about the stucco material on the bulkhead. Is there stucco used elsewhere on the building?
Let me pull up. Am I still sharing here? Let's see. It's this material here, essentially. I think it's probably plastered over brick. Oh, can you see that on my screen?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That orange part? Huh?
It's plastered over brick and steel.
Plastered over brick. So the intent would be to build that bulkhead to match that same finish that's right adjacent to it.
Okay.
And then across and dye into this beadboard wall here.
Okay, thank you.
And Michelle had a comment about these thresholds. I think the intent would be to just make them really disappear where we build that bulkhead flush with that. So it comes up, it's at the same height across both windows. So it's level and square. And then the windows would go in above that.
Any other questions for Mr. Crabtree? No? Okay, thank you, sir. Is there anyone out there who would like to speak in favor of the proposal of the project?
Nobody else is,
Nobody else is there? That also means that there's nobody out there speaking against it. Okay, having no additional witnesses speaking in favor and no opponents to the proposal, nor additional witnesses in opposition. Okay. Okay, we will move on. Michelle, would you like to make any other kinds of comments, summary, or follow-up? That presentation?
No, I think the elevations that he shared with us are definitely more detailed than the rendering provided, and that was reviewed with the application submittal. So I think that will definitely be helpful in fleshing out some of those details we were looking for before. And I do appreciate your comments regarding material.
Okay, then we will close.
Yes.
Oh,
Just a question for Michelle.
okay.
The updated drawings that were uploaded today, so they're on the city system, so we can look at those.
They
Actually part of the record, or?
not yet, no. So they've been marked as unviewable, so they can't actually be viewed by the public or by you. I'll have to work with Heidi because that would typically be something we would request be reviewed administratively if you did choose to include those as recommended conditions of approval, then the applicant would provide those to us to meet those requirements. So we probably would keep them not viewable until the decision's approved, and then we are looking for additional documentation. Unless you have anything to add to that, Heidi.
yeah, when we do public notice, we try to get the applicant and to not put anything new in the records. Any neighbors, any of the commissioners looking at it, that we're all on the same page. It's not a moving target. So that was the concern with when they got uploaded today. So we talked to Mr. Crabtree about either presenting it tonight and then we'll have that as an exhibit, or waiting if it's something in support or addressing the recommended conditions, then we can. That will be all public record later.
Yeah, so with the exception of what he showed us tonight, that will be uploaded as Exhibit A. That was viewed at the hearing, and then everything else will be available later.
Yeah, I'm comfortable with that, given the fact that there's no voiced opposition. I think if there were voiced opposition, that might be an opportunity for the applicant to address those. And it'd be nice to see those, but given that there's no real opposition at this point that we're hearing, I think I'm comfortable with that process. So.
Only other thing I would add is if you feel comfortable with how the applicant addressed the public comment, or if you want more detail from them on that.
Yeah, I'm okay.
I'm okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Any other questions then from Michelle?
Well, we'll be going into deliberations.
Yeah,
So I just have some suggested language on one of the conditions.
Okay. Then this year the hearing of what number am I looking at? PLHIS 20220454. The public hearing is closed for commission deliberation. and which will lead to a motion. Deliberation.
Sure, yeah. I think generally it seems to be an improvement. I have some reservations about the black. In looking at the historic photos in the staff report, I think it's pages 4 and 5. The early rendition, all of the trim is light colored. And I just think it'd be, well, my aesthetic would be more attractive and more in keeping with the historic nature of the building if those windows matched the upper windows in color and form. I think the only other thing, I looked at the street tree. I went on Street View and I happened to drive down that street quite a lot. It's a pretty healthy street tree, which is remarkable in urban environments or semi-urban environments. That was in that condition, rather than say should be preserved, I would say shall be preserved. And that the applicant would have to make a case for it not to be preserved. And I'm assuming, it's been a while since I've read the tree ordinances, that if that tree is removed because it's of significant size, that there might be some sort of banking for the value of that tree. In the specifications I write professionally, a tree of that size, the National Insurance Advisors, there's a standard for replacement of trees. So I would just, again, encourage the language to say shall be preserved as opposed to should. You can tell I spent the last 2 days writing specifications for another project.
Okay. Otherwise, any other comments about the project? Jim?
Me.
Okay, Tom, how about you?
I agree with Jim. I think it's a reasonable proposal, and there's no, it's been modified over the years so many times that there's nothing really to return to, but the items that are being modified seem to be doing so appropriately.
Okay, good. My concern is the metal frame on the windows. Windows are pretty touchy. If it were possible to get a wood clad frame for those windows, I'd be happy as a clam at high tide. If we can put that in as a recommendation for approval, would certainly swing me to being very, very favorable to this.
Yeah. I agree with you. It's my only reservation about the elevation is the way those black window frames just kind of pop out and don't look like part of a consistent building facade that would have been part of the original look. As I said, looking back at although they're different shapes and forms in those pictures from 1917, I think one was 1930, they're still all light in color. And I think that's more in keeping with, and granted, it may be more maintenance, but that's the nature of a historic structure.
So, yes, absolutely, I agree with that.
I lived in a historic structure in Sacramento, and I did a lot of upkeep constantly on things. And that's just the nature of it.
Yes.
It's part of the value of living in or occupying a historic structure. So I wouldn't be afraid of that. And I'd be, I guess, willing to, include in a motion,
Okay.
a wood frame.
A wood frame or something that would be wood frame or wood clad. Something that would look not like it came from a foundry or rolling mill.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Then I will entertain, unless there's other discussion, comment, I will entertain a motion then.
Okay. Well, I would move to based on the staff report and the findings in the staff report, I would move to approve the project with conditions and with modifications to condition 3 to remove the word should be preserved and replace with shall be preserved. And then I would also propose to modify condition 4 since it deals with material cut sheets and to require a wood or wood clad window for the replacement storefront windows.
Okay.
Is that sufficiently clear?
Michelle, that's good. Okay.
Now we need the tape to repeat.
Yeah, I think I can just add that in as a describing factor for the material cut sheets. I think that works, but
On the material cut sheets.
yeah, so basically keeping that condition as is and
But
adding that in there.
the going by your review anyway.
Mhm.
Okay, so then as far as fulfillment of that condition of approval, then you will go ahead and make sure that that happens.
Yes.
Okay, so I have a motion. Do I hear a second?
Second that.
Okay, well, it's been moved and seconded to approve the project with the changes to with staff recommendations and changes to recommendation number 3 from should be preserved to shall be preserved on the street tree. And recommendation number 4 in the material cut sheets for the proposed windows that we find wood or wood clad windows to fit into the project, to go into the project. Discussion on the motion itself.
I think as long as it's clear.
Okay.
Yeah.
I believe it is. Tom, you?
Yep, good.
Okay, no questions or discussion, any further discussion on the motion? Go ahead.
Are you satisfied with the paneling of the windows?
Mhm.
Proposed 2 sets of panels in each on each side?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, we're good with that.
Yeah, I think, as I said, I think my main objection is the starkness, the color, and there makes them stand out as being significantly different from the rest of the window package.
Just to clarify, if we do require wood or wood clad windows, it seems like they can still paint that, paint it black or choose black color.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So
Um,
just as a,
It's just that it's a historic building and it should use as many historic materials as we possibly can.
Yeah, I don't believe we have the authority to dictate paint color.
but you were saying that was a
Paint.
factor.
That's above our pay grade.
Yeah, if they were to go to wood clad and then paint, I would hope that they painted all the window trims.
Yeah. And then, and if the color doesn't work out, then it's easy to change the color. I mean, as long as the wood is kept covered with paint. Time for a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? The ayes have it. The project is proposed is approved with the attached recommendations. Okay. Thank you, Mr. Crabtree. You still with us?
Yes.
Okay, good. And just as an afterward, I think it's going to, I commend anyone who takes their building and tries to move it back to, it's closer to its more historic origins in the look. I'll be interested to see how it turns out. Not sure I will. It's right downtown. Okay. Takes care of that. I have an awful time with this, agenda. Oh, that's the wrong one.
Do you want us to share the agenda?
Jerry, Jerry.
Yeah. All right, and number 5 on our agenda list, communications update on state historic preservation grant. Heidi?
I just wanted to give an update for the historic preservation grant. It's a 1.5-year cycle that goes, and we're closing down on the last grant cycle. We have one of our, I just picked up, have paperwork today from the one person that we had participate in the historic restoration grant. So they're finishing up their work, so we're gonna get refunds for that, pass-through grants. But I just wanna plant a seed in your head. We have basically 6 months until next spring where we can apply for another grant. And just ideas or funds. We've done the research on the homes on the west side of the river, with grant funds. I mean, there's lots of opportunities and lots of ideas. So if you have some, we can, continue to talk about ideas for use of funds in the next 6 months. So.
And those funds can be used for various projects like the looking into the historic district over on the west side of the river.
Right. We've done training, restoration grant, grant. We've had people participate in that one for 3 or 4 times at least. So we can continue that program. We can, there's just lots of the opportunities are endless. So.
Okay, all right. And I might have missed it, but we still have funds from this year's grant.
It's closing down. The window is closing down, and so I'm the one restoration west, the last thing that we have to get refunds for. So I'm working on that this month. But we're going to close down in August, and we're going to take a 6-month break, and then we can reapply.
And then reapply for it. Okay. All right. And we will develop projects then close as we get closer to the.
Right. We can. I'll put these on the good of the order. Communications, ideas. If you have them and you want me to do some research and come up with something, we can just keep talking about that. So we've got 6 months to do that before we apply.
Great, super. Thank you very much for that update. Also on the communications in good of the order, the evaluation of the local government evaluation of our district is.
Yeah, we're a certified local government. And every 4 years, one of the state preservation office employees comes over and spend some time with us, see what they can do to help us, what we're doing, making sure we're doing everything correctly as a certified local government. Lots of rules and contract we sign to be that, and so make sure.
Okay.
So we're gonna do that in September.
And that's in September.
Yeah.
Which, believe it or not, will come up very quickly. Mhm. Yeah. and Summer will go faster than we want it to. Okay. Any other good of the order communication, Tom? Jim, nothing? Okay, then Michelle, anything to add to communication good of the order?
No.
Okay, we're good. Then this meeting of the Bend Landmarks Commission is closed. One of our easier ones. Yeah, yeah. So you missed some of the tougher ones. The 4-hour one was the.
So much for this. We said-